What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the term marketing? Maybe it's TV commercials or pop up ads or sponsored posts on social media. And those things are part of marketing. They are ways to market, but they do not encompass what marketing actually is. Understanding the psychology of marketing is something that will help you create positive change in all areas of your life and find success not just in business, but in your health, your wealth, your relationships, and beyond. Welcome to Change Made Easy. Changing your habits, routines, and behaviors is hard. We make it easy. I'm Paul Leviton, a board licensed behavior change coach who's been helping people just like you to create positive, lasting change in their health, wealth, and relationships for over 10 years. Abraham Lincoln said, "If you wish to win a man over to your ideas, first make him your friend." This is what marketing is truly all about. It's not about a product. It's not about money. It's about trust. Businesses market to get you to trust them enough to buy their products. But you are also marketing yourself every day. You market yourself to customers, to partners, to your kids, your neighbors, your friends, even strangers. You're marketing that they should buy the idea of you. You're also marketing to yourself. Building trust and confidence in yourself is built on the same fundamentals and principles of psychology and marketing. And that's why I'm so excited for you to hear this conversation with today's guest, Michael Faber. Michael Faber is an author, entrepreneur, keynote speaker, and sales and marketing master, as well as community builder and so much more. Michael struggled in his early life in just about every way imaginable, as you'll hear about in this episode. But having the deck stacked against him and none of the odds in his favor didn't hold him back. And Michael has gone to start multiple successful businesses and now helps business and entrepreneurs better connect with their audiences so they can serve more people and make more money doing it. In this episode, you'll hear Michael and I discuss what's the one thing he's seen all successful people have in common, how Michael teaches entrepreneurs to become unleashed, where his big audacious goal to completely end suicide and self-harm comes from, and why connection is such a powerful force and how you can use it to build your dream life. And with that, enjoy this conversation with my friend, Michael Faber. What does it mean to be unleashed?
Oof, good question. Where to start? I would go with it means detaching from programming that we've had that's been for years and years and years and years, and even before we got here. Detaching from culture and society norms and expectations, from family traditions, right? And kind of forging your own way and figuring out who you are and what you're about and what you do. I think it's releasing all that other stuff and just being willing to step beautifully into who you are and what you're meant to contribute to this masterpiece called life.
And I love that. Beautifully put. Contributing to this masterpiece called life, I think is a beautiful way to put it. And you mentioned that this stuff kind of comes from the programming that we have. How do you go about starting to notice this stuff to be able to step out into it?
It's tough. I mean, it's easier said than done. I mean, I got in trouble. I started getting in trouble when I was like 12 years old, right? So like one of the first things you hear as soon as you get in trouble, so your life's over. Right. So then everybody's like, man, this kid just keeps getting in trouble. And I was like, well, yeah, my programming said because of what I was told and I believed it, the story I was told I believed in was that my life was over because I got in trouble once. So what's the point of not getting in trouble? Right. Like, what's the other options now? And I think it's asking ourselves some questions, but having good answers for them. Right. Is that true? Is it the truth? Does it have to be? And how can I change it?
Yeah, that I love those questions. Is that the truth? Does it have to be? How can I change it? And you mentioned that, all right, you got in trouble once and that became the story in your head. Like, I got in trouble. They told me, like, well, your life's over. You're a screw up. You're whatever. And then that becomes a self fulfilling prophecy. So, what do you do again when that is the story that's in your head? Like that, especially at such a young age, 12 years old, 13 years old. Again, it's like, oh, well, you got detention. You got kicked out of school. You got whatever it is. And all the kids who screw up get kicked out of school. And that means you're one of them. And it just, it spirals out from there. So, how do you, cut off the head of the dragon?
Right. One of the great things is like, I used to say I hit rock bottom. That used to be my thing. I hit rock bottom, man. There's nowhere but up. And the funny thing about rock bottom is we all get to pick where it is. I didn't know that. Like, I didn't think of that. Like, rock bottom is wherever you decide. If some rock bottoms aren't even, I'm like, wow, okay, that's a great rock bottom. And some rock bottoms, I'm like, ugh, all right, like that's a fight. Like we really put ourselves behind it. So one was realizing that everything is what we created, like what we decided to be, that you control more in this life than you really think you do. All too often we get, oh, I have no control over that. I have no control over this. I can't do anything about that. And it's like, all right, cool. But look at all the stuff you can do and look at all the stuff you do have control over and look at all and at least we have control over the story we tell ourselves. To the least we have that.
Yeah, I think that that's important because there's so much that's outside of our control, and something that I'm very adamant about is like that to me, that's one of the biggest, if not the number one contributor to people's discontent in this life. It's that feeling of being out of control, that feeling of life is happening to me, things are happening to me, woe is me, this is the victim mentality. It's all that stuff that we like to talk about. And as you said, there's so many things that we decidedly cannot control. I can't control the weather. I can't control the government. I can't control my spouse. I can't control my kids. I can't control a lot of things. But the one thing that I actually do have at least a little bit of say over is the story. So I'm wondering, with your story, I love that point actually, that you get to choose your rock bottom, because how many people hit rock bottom, quote unquote, and then they kick the can down the road and then they hit rock bottom two or three more times, right? So it's like it's rock bottom until it isn't. So I'm curious, what was the story in your head, or how did you start to turn it around? What was the self-talk like that allowed you to say like, okay, I have to make a change?
Whew, that's a good question, man. It was really, I'd say, like a domino effect of different things. First, with things that I can't even take credit for. For me, it was really outside sources, like my daughter coming, like finding out I was gonna be a dad. I lost my dad when I was 18, 19, right? And I was like, dude, I'm not gonna be dead or in jail for my kid. I'm gonna be out here. Right? So that made me stop doing some of the things. That made me address who I was. I think one of the first and one of the hardest things is addressing who we really are at this time, because we think that means that's who we are, but we're ever evolving and changing creatures. We're not who we are. I'm not who I was when I was 20. Thank God, neither of us would like him. We get to evolve and change. And if that's the truth, which it is, because we've all seen that, that means that no matter where we are and what we have done, we can change this for the future. Right. And I will never live in those moments again. They're gone. Right. I could be in moments like them, but I'll never live in those moments again. Those moments are gone forever. All right. So I think one, releasing some of the shame and guilt we put on ourselves. Right. I think two, understanding that the part of the story that's written already is written, but the story left to be written, we get to control a bit of the pen and get to write some of it ourselves. I think checking ourselves while also showing compassion to ourselves. Either we're like way too light on ourselves or way too hard. There's never just that middle ground. Listen, I'm a screw up. Like, I'm a screw up every way possible. I screwed up every way possible in my life. That doesn't mean that I'm always going to screw up. That doesn't mean I don't come from a place of love. That doesn't mean I'm not going to create great impact or help people. It just means that I have screwed up and I know I will because I'm human. Every great leader had two traits. And it's funny because one's normally viewed negative, right? And they were humbly narcissistic. And what humble means is that we knew we err. We're human. We know we're going to make mistakes. We're not perfect. And narcissistic is high belief in oneself, right? An overload of confidence that I could do something that few or no one has ever done or seen.
Hey, real quick, we'll be back to the show in just a few seconds, but right now I just have to tell you about my free weekly newsletter. If you want to join the thousands of change seekers just like you who get a curated list each week of 5 educational, informative, and inspiring pieces of content to help you on your quest for change, then click the link in the notes that says free newsletter right now. You'll get signed up for free tips that will make your change journey easier, sent straight to your inbox every Friday. All you have to do is click free newsletter in whatever app you're listening on. Okay, now back to the show. It makes sense because everyone who's ever accomplished anything great has, as you said, you use the word narcissistic, but it's just like, I use it as almost like a foolish level of optimism. You look at someone like Elon Musk, and it's like the stuff he's doing, when he's talking about doing it, it's just like, that's a fantasy. It's literally just science fiction. And he's just like, no, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to make it. I'm just going to go to Mars. I'm just going to power the world with electricity and things like that. And it's like, if you don't have that almost, again, foolhardy level of confidence, level of optimism, level of narcissism to a degree, again, the sword cuts both ways, so it can be a negative trait, but there has to be that level, because otherwise nothing great is done without big aspirations. People who accept that middle of the road life get it. You get exactly what you set out for. And I love your point about, just because that's been the story up until now doesn't mean that it has to continue to be the story. And right before we were recording, you and I were talking, and you mentioned that in one of your books, you studied some of the most successful people of all time. And my goal with this podcast is to bring what I call the success clues, the golden threads of success that interweave all people who are successful in any area of life, so that the listeners can take those little nuggets, those little clues, those little principles, and bring them into their life to live a happier, healthier life. So I'm curious, what are some of the big takeaways that you had, or some of the maybe things that you learned that wouldn't be so obvious about what makes successful people successful?
Right. Number one was thick skin, because people are going to say things about you. You're going to fail. Like, if you're trying to do something extraordinary, you're not going to first time be like, bet, did it. That's probably not how it's going to go. All right. So I think a couple of the big ones, first, thick skin. And when I started this, I think when I went from like troublemaker Mike to I'm going to be an entrepreneur, run business, even the people closest to me were like, think about this. Come on, Mike. What do you know about this? And I'm like, I know what everyone knows when they started. Not much. I'm going to learn as I go, and I'm going to figure some things out. Then when I got older and wiser, I was like, I can learn from other people too. I don't have to learn just from the beaten. I can learn from other people's beatings and use it so I don't get beat as bad. It took me a while to figure that out. I thought getting scars were like, stripes. And I was like, I'm earning my stripes. So definitely thick skin. You're going to need it. It's one, persistent and patience. And why I put them together is like, we have to be patient on result, but persistent, unwilling in our behavior and what we do. I come to work every damn day. I don't have to. I choose to, right? I want to. All right. I come into this place every day, this office building, this exact building, which I have an office a corner away from my house. But I literally drive to the further office, and I'm here for hours hammering my craft. And that's partly because that gives me a sense of why I'm so confident in what I do, is because I know how long I hammered the sword for this battle. I know how long I practiced this and go over it and work at it. I know that. I do that strictly so I know that here. So I know in every battle that I am that guy that did that and put in that hours. You're going to have to beat that dude in order for that to happen. I won't quit. So I'm patient on the result, but I am ungodly annoying when it comes to consistent right now action. Like, we're taking some sort of action right now, knowing that I might not receive this payout for months or years, but I'm going to do the things now so I get that payout. I think that's one of the biggest things that we often like. People come to me and they're like, Mike, I've tried everything. It's been 3 months. Why am I not winning? I'm like, because it's been 3 months, bro. Like, I don't know. It's going to be a little more consistent action and the right action, though. I have to know what you're doing. But there's a consistent time thing that does come to this. More people getting attention on to you and what you do and the result you give people and all the good stuff that they're going to need to know in order to want to invest and to give you money for something, because we don't just give money for nothing. So I think those are a couple ones that I would really, if you made me highlight like three, it would be those three that I think would be, from the research in which I did and from what the research in which I read of others, that would be what I would lean towards.
Yeah, that persistence and patience being a kind of combo, two sides of the same coin is so perfect, because it is exactly that. I tell people all the time, you can literally achieve anything. What you can't do is decide how fast you want it to happen.
Right.
Whether it's weight loss, building a business, improving your relationship, you can say, I want to have a great relationship with my wife or husband. If it's strayed right now, if it's strained, but you can't say, I want it by next week. It's going to
Right.
take as long as it takes. And that's one of the number one thing that I see that screws people up on their journey, on their goals, is that they try to decide what the timeline is going to be when you don't get to decide that. The universe gets to decide. And that goes back to having the thick skin, because until you get there, people are going to call you crazy. People are going to say you're wasting your time. What an idiot. You're spending your money, and all of these other different things. So I really love those three examples. And something that I know that you do, you have a very big goal, a very big drive, a very big dream, and that is to end suicide. And
Mhm.
that is a huge goal that could be by all means looked at as crazy, because how are you going to do that? That's impossible, all these things.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, if you could just explain, a little bit about that, how you came to having that as your goal, your dream, your ambition, and how you're thinking about it now.
Oh man, unfortunately, it's been something that's kind of been shaping a lot of my life. So my goal is to end suicide, self-induced behavior. That's my ultimate goal, my dream. I call it my goal and my dream. I always say my dream as part of it is because pay homage to Martin Luther King Jr., which I always say what he meant when he said that. In my perspective, was he doesn't know if he's going to see it in his lifetime or not, but he knows he has to do his part for it to be seen in a lifetime. And I'm like, I might not get to see this day, but I know I got to do my part for it to be seen in a day. Right. So that's why I say it that way. And why my brother's one of the 22 that served the country and took his own life. He did that in the early 90s. In 2011, one of my best friends took his own life. And 3 months later, his brother did as well. I lost numerous friends to drug, silly violence, things of that nature that I don't, I don't want. I believe we all are meant to create a puzzle piece to this thing we call life. We are not the puzzle or a piece to it. And the more of us that get to do that and create it and put it in, the more whole this world will be, right? The closer we are to creating that true masterpiece that this can be, right? So the more we lose prematurely, the less pieces we got to put together. So, so that's why. And I was a suicidal maniac, man. In 2011, I had a gun in my mouth and Lewis beat. Gun wouldn't go off. Spoiler alert, clearly from here. Right. And then I became like I was on pills and into heavy booze, and I like hitchhiked across America, had a missing person report for me. Like I was a nutto. I was out there. And because I was, someone said once, they were like, dude, you're out there somewhere. You just got to go find yourself. I was like, all right. So I started looking behind every tree and in every bush and under every rock, trying to figure out where I was, and ended up in like Mobile, Alabama. Nothing wrong with Mobile, Alabama. I wasn't in the nice part of it. And I was like, how the hell did I get here? But that kind of led us to this is where I found purpose, man, and fulfillment. Right, where life was everything was worth it all of a sudden, like, all the hardship was even worth it, and it was like that's why I say, like, I don't ever look for fair, because fair doesn't exist. Just make whatever the hell it is worth it, because if you do that, then it was worth it, then it was cool, right? Or we can have the conversation about it. So that's kinda, like, what led me to it, and when diving down it more and more, I found purpose, and I found joy, and I found fulfillment of serving people. So I think those are some of the things that led to it. How we're gonna do that, I used to be a real egotistical maniac, and I thought I could do it myself. Right. And I learned I couldn't, and I would have to live to like 1,500,000 years old. I'm not the epitome of health, so I don't think I'm going to do that. Um, but if I empower those or help those that empower others, then my criminal self is like, I can steal their numbers. So that's why we serve who we serve and how we serve them, in order to be able to reach more people. Because if we can raise the energy or the vibration closer to love level, right, or self love level, self-induced behavior and suicide goes away, because the first two parts aren't there.
Yeah, it's, I mean, sad story, obviously, that what you've been through, but again, as you said, you changed the ending, right? To by all the people looking from the places that you came from and the life that you led up until a certain point, it was a foregone conclusion of we know how this is going to end, and yet you're a living example of no, it doesn't have to be this way. And I love the analogy that you're using for those listening. We are recording this on Martin Luther King Day. And that's why he mentioned that I have a dream, and the analogy of the dream is something that you might not live to see. It's there's a Buddhist saying about you have to plant a tree for which you might never eat the fruit, and this is exactly that. And when you believe in something, that's only possible when you believe in something so deeply. So much of what we do is ingrained in instant gratification. It's like like not only do I not care about what comes after me, like I want it now. I'm not going to do something that I have to wait 3 months, like you said, let alone is going to come after I die. Like why would I do that? It's only when you have that deep, persistent purpose that you literally can't do anything but to work towards. And when you find that, I mean, it's probably the greatest feeling in the world because that's when you can just work, like you said, go into an office so you don't have to. You show up every day, you master your craft, you push, you do these things. So I want to go back though to again, like some of the tactical side of what you're doing, how you're working on the energy you're putting out into the world, into the universe through your talks. I've had the pleasure of hearing you speak in person before, and you have some key things that you talk about are the things that lead to self-harm, and that if we can eliminate those, then that's how we start to actually like weed this stuff out. So could you break that down for us?
Yeah. The three pieces of self-harm or suicide, right? To end one's life. And the first one is isolation. They feel like they're completely alone. No one understands. No one gets me. Right? Like I'm isolated. Physically, I could be isolated, but also more important, mentally, I'm isolated. Like these guys don't really care about me. They don't really love me. They don't really want me here. They don't really like. No one really cares about me or understands me or gets me. That would be a lot of the conversation for isolation. So that's the first part. Second part is burdenship. The people I do care about, their life is worse because I'm here. It's harder for them. I'm a pain in their butt. All right. Like I'm causing them shit just because I'm here. Everyone would be better without kind of thinking. Right. And that's burden. So that's the first two parts. The third part we can't do anything about. That's the ability to harm one beyond repair. But that goes against everything we're wired, right? Our body's wired to save ourselves. But when we get beyond that point, we're beyond that point. We can't do much about that one. The first two we can. So rather than sometimes if I see a couple paths and I see one that might be a little easier to get through or simpler, I'll go through that one. And it's simpler to let people know, like, you're not alone. Like, I'm in this. I've been this shit. I thought I was useless. I know what it feels like with the gun and knowing that you just want to end it, right? Like that'd be easier. I get it. I've had those nights. I've had those moments. So you're not alone. And then also why I talk about my life purpose is to be there. It's because then you can't think it's a burden for you. No, this is my life purpose. Like I love this shit. Right? Like it sounds bad, but I'm like, when I get the call and someone's like, yo, like I need someone. I'm like, bet you got someone. Let's talk. What do you want to do? You want to meet? You want to talk on the phone? Like, how do you want to handle this? We do it for our state. We have a nonprofit organization named in honor of my brother. We do it all over the place. We offer free services, literally from a coach to all the way to therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists. It's because we want to make sure people know like they're not alone and they're not a burden. If we could take care of those first two things, we got a pretty good shot for us.
I appreciate you sharing that because those three kind of steps, the stepping stones to because were very enlightening when I first heard you talk about them. Because for people who don't have self thoughts of self harm, suicidal ideations, things like that, it can be almost like alarming to say, like, how can someone do that? How do you get to the
100%.
point where you can do
Yeah.
that? Like you
I've
said,
never
like
heard that. Right.
right, like you said, we have literally ingrained in our DNA, like, I can't even cut myself because 'cause I'll pull
Live.
away, like, it'll hurt, and
Yeah.
it tells me my brain will be like, "Stop, no, don't do that," right? You pull your hand
Right.
away from the hot
Facts.
stove, you learn how to do all this stuff. So it's enlightening to hear, like, what the stepping stones are because I can see isolation, burdensomeness, all of this stuff goes hand in hand, and I can see how it goes from a little to a lot to too much, and that's when people get to that point, they have that switch turned off that would normally protect them, you could see how the worst could happen. And
Well, that's why there's
y
more attempts accomplished field, right? Because sometimes we're trying, but we're not trying.
mm, yeah, I definitely see that as well. And so how important is community in all of this? And how do you look at community building when you're looking at such a big, audacious goal?
Ooh, two good questions. So I think community is extremely important for our whole existence as human beings. We have been tribal. We have been connected. We want to connect to something. We want to belong to something. Right. For the whole existence of manhood, like of the steps of man. Literally from back with when we had hunters, gatherers, planters, everybody had their role, how they contribute to their society. Why were they were belonging to something and they gave value to something. So they got to receive value. Been that way for as long as we talk about every history book. Think about the civilizations of history, why they the ones that are really talked about, why is because they were so advanced with how they ran their where people had strong ties to and strong beliefs in, and they had their role in their society, and they felt like they belonged, but also contributed because that's huge for human behavior. Like for us beings, like we literally want to belong and connect. I someone said once connection was the cure to addiction, and I said that you are just at the tip of what connection is. Connection is the cornerstone for human existence. We want to connect to something so bad. That's why people will go out there and kill people in the name of whatever they feel like they belong and connected to. People have done it for gangs. People have done it for God. People have done it for country. People have done it for whatever they feel connected and belong to, right? That is theirs. That's how strong this is to pull for human beings, right? So first and foremost, that's how important community is, just period, right? So I think rather than sometimes we want to belong so bad, we go and be part of anything, and that doesn't serve either. It's understanding to really find your tribe, the group of people that speak to your soul, that makes you feel no longer like you receive value from, but also you have value to give. And we want that as well.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's interesting as you were talking about. I love that you said community is literally like the cornerstone, the bedrock. It's more important than we could ever realize. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking, right? You mentioned isolation as one of the first step. And when people talk about this, because I've spoken about it with other experts before, and on my own about, they talk about like there's a epidemic of loneliness, and especially during the pandemic, people can die from loneliness. And the interesting thing for me, I'm always like, well, people talk about solitary confinement, right? You go to jail, and the ultimate torture is they put you in solitary. A week, people go crazy, a month, or something like that. But then you hear about people going on a silent meditation retreat where they will sit by themselves and not talk to anyone for 2 weeks and come out, and it's the most enlightening thing that's ever happened to them. So it's like, how can it be that isolation is a thing? But it's because when they're doing it with that different perspective of they're choosing to do it, one, you're still in control, and it's to a connection to a deeper community. When I'm going on a silent meditation retreat, yeah, I'm not talking to anyone for those 7 days, but you're doing it because of the connection to the greater power, to the other meditators around you or something like that. You're still somehow a part of a community. And just that shift in perspective to where this isn't torture, this is something that I'm choosing, this is something that I'm doing, changes the entire outcome of it. So
Right.
I'm curious if there's anything in your life where you've noticed that, like, just the simple shift in perspective, or maybe not so simple, but just the altered perspective of looking at something a different way changed the literal outcome of what it would or could be.
Oh, 100%. I like pretty much every area of my life. Right. and the, when you do a trip like you were talking about, you feel connected to something greater. Right. So the connection piece is still there. Typically, I was in ISO sometimes, and you're not connected to anything. It's it is torture, and there's a reason why legal systems and things of that nature use that as a form of to terror, to discipline, to scare into to either saying something they want you to say or acting the way they want you to act. It's used in a form of control to say you don't have it and we do. All right. Now, flipping the script and changing the story in which you're telling yourself is to literally change everything. Because what's the difference between a victim and a victor? It's the story they tell them. I mean, I'm not a big cliche user guy, but that was pretty it. That's pretty much as high as I'll get on the cliche user line. But but it's true. It's like, dude, I used to say why me to so much of my life. Right? Like, why would this happen to me? That's not fair. That's not right. But what if it was to build something in me? What if it was to expose something for me or to show me something? And all those things I just said are for me, not against me. So just simply using the words different rather than against, but for, because that changes the whole way you're looking at something. You're looking at it as worked in my favor rather than against me. Right? It's when I did that, it changed because believe me, man, I was straight victimhood. Like, dude, everybody always thinks the first 20 years of my life was the worst because I was like a villain. I would say people like I was a book already. I was a villain for the first part of my life. All right. I was the bad guy. And everybody always thinks that's the worst part. But I always say the next part was the worst part. I was waiting for someone to save me for the next like 10 years. I was the damsel in distress, waving my beard out of a castle, hoping someone would climb it for me. The the idea is like you have to be your own hero. You have to be. Other people can be your hero, but they can't be the hero to save you. You can only save you. They can only give you access to save you. Like my mom is one of my heroes. She believed in me even when no one should have. My mom believed in me when I didn't, when no one did, when no one should have. I didn't have any reason for anyone to believe in me. My mom still believed in me. She's a hero of mine because she always made it where there was a possibility I could do good. The only one, right, for my whole life. So she's always a hero of mine, but I had to be my hero in order to change my life and save my life. I had to step into that role. Just like you have to step in it for you, and your buddy has to step in it for them, and my buddy has to step in it for them. No matter how many cool lines I use, no matter how many dumb books I write, like no matter how many times I step on stage or carpet or hardwood or whatever the hell the thing is made of that I'm standing on, right? At the end of the day, I can only do something to open something that you have to take and own and do yourself. And that's why, like, my clients, I hate when they're like, "And my coach did this." I'm like, "No, I didn't. No, I didn't. You get all of that because I don't get the blame. I don't get the credit. Now, if you give me the blame, I better get the credit. But if I don't get the blame, I don't get the credit, right? And I don't get the blame if you don't do the work. And if you do the work, I can't get the credit. Then you got to get the credit because you did it. So I think flipping the script and always being like, and especially like in business, how can I make this work for me? What leverage do I have here? How can I turn this and make it work? Because some of the times you're not going to be dealt a winning hand, but you got to find a way to win with that hand. And if we focus on that, I think will lead to better results.
I mean, yeah, I can't put it better myself. As you said, the victim versus victor is the ultimate cliche, but the cliches are cliches for a reason. It is the truth. It's annoying to
Yeah,
say that stuff over and over, and yet
just right.
it's the truth. It's real. Living in victimhood serves no one, but it's the easiest place to be. It's safe. It feels good. It feels warm in my belly to just say, I can't do anything. It's not my fault. It happened to me. It was the government. It was Biden. It was Trump. It was my tire, this, my boss, like
Lion sire.
yeah, it gives us, it literally feels good in our brain and body to be able to pass the buck, to push off the blame from ourselves to someone else. And but only when we take ownership of it do we have at least an opportunity to change it. Because you figuring out that you're like, well, this is all kind of my own thing to figure out doesn't solve the issue. It doesn't actually change anything. But now you can at least start. I would say like it's like when before that it's like when you're young and you're playing Super Nintendo, or you're playing Mario Kart, and you're looking at the wrong screen, and then you look down, and you're playing on second player, and you're just like bumping against the wall over and over and over. It's like you weren't even playing the game. You thought something whole different thing was happening. It's like now you're still in last place, but you can at least have a chance to like turn the car around and start driving on the track. And that's how I think of all this stuff. It's like once you start to take ownership, once you realize that no one's coming to save you, once you realize that everything is my fault, and that's okay, because if it's my fault to create it, it's my fault to change it. That just gives you like an opportunity to now start to look at things differently and start to move forward. So I appreciate you, bringing that to us. I don't like to like be victim shaming or victim bashing or something like that, but the reality is we don't solve problems that we didn't help create. If I can pass the buck to why this problem isn't my fault, that's where I go, oh, thank goodness. Now I don't have to figure it out. Like, yeah, exactly. Like, so, okay, oh, it's not my fault. It's the time of the year. It's the stars. It's, yeah, it's my business partner. It's my sister, whatever it is.
All right,
So
all right.
I love that. And, we've talked a lot about different aspects of success, about what holds us back, and from business to all the way to the other end of the spectrum with ending self-harm, and a wide range of topics. And the last thing I want to ask, Mike, is the same question that I ask every guest, which is if you had one action step that listeners can take right now today, as soon as this episode ends, as soon as they take their headphones out, to start living a happier, healthier life, what would it be?
Clarity. We always need clarity. We just see the target in order to hit a target. So when you say happy, like, what does that even look like? What is happy? Where do you find happiness? Dude, I find happiness having these conversations. That's why I signed up to do so many of them. That's why I wanted to do this. I want to do these things because I find happiness here. And even deeper, these conversations bring joy. And then if I actually felt like I did my part in this, then I contributed and there was fulfillment there. So clarity, I think when I was running around doing dumb shit, I, I had no clear target. Just do dumb shit because I had nothing else to hit. When I was the damsel in distress living in victimhood, man, I didn't have a target. I was just like, but I'm doing my part. I show up. I open the business, right? Like that was it. Like ready to go, Mike. I think it wasn't until I got really clear on what was fulfillment to me. Where did I find happiness? What was really important to me? What's really my goals? Where do I actually care about what I'm doing? Where do I not give a shit about what I'm doing? Right. And like actually started really breaking that down was then I got to start to do the things that like made my heart leap more and things that excited me more, things that interested me more. You said something that I want to say something to, and I know you're getting mad at me because I'm going too long. Always. I don't know if you ever notice anytime you give me a mic, I'm going too long. But I have a stone in my office and the stone is on my desk. And why is because someone will come in with a situation, right? They'll say problem. I always say situation. Changes the thinking. But I have a rock and it says problem on one side. I turn it around. They say everything you need to say about this problem. And they do. Give them as much time as they need. And when they're done, we switch the rock over and the other side says solution. And now all of our focus is on what's the solution. No more of the problem, who to blame for, why, all the ifs, ands, buts, could have been, should have been, have beens. And we're just going to, how are we solving this? That's where our attention needs to go. Right. And that goes back to the clarity. Because when we're clear on right now, our focus is solution. Right now, our focus is on what healthy is to us. Right now, our focus is what's our business success look like? Right? What does that truly mean to us? How do we define that? I think getting clear on it. And when you have clarity, you find where to go better. When you have real clarity on stuff, it's crazy how life, universe, tree, God, dirt, I don't care what you call it, finds a way to put it all in place where it's like, oh my God, this can help me do this. And this guy can help me do that. And all of a sudden it's like answers are there, answers arrive. So clarity, I think, is key.
I appreciate that. And I normally don't do this, but I'm going to actually ask you one more question because I agree. I say all the time that happiness, like I want to be more happy is a bad goal. I want to be more
Yeah.
healthy is a bad goal. Like, what does that even mean? You have to dig in. What is happiness to you? So my question then to find clarity, right? If you like, if you had if you're coaching with someone or you have like an activity or something like that, like it sounds like again, cliche. It's like, okay, like, yeah, who wouldn't want clarity? So if there's something that we're trying to get a little bit more clear on, a little bit more pinpoint, do you have something that you take people through or how do you actually start to put this into action?
Yeah. So it's crazy you said that. I actually do. Thank God. I'm glad because that'd be horrible if you're like, do you actually do something like this? No. We actually have an exercise we do. We actually call it the ultimate guide to live the life of your dreams. All right. And in any area, let's just take health because you were talking about that and big into it. I could tell. All right. This man's like a model, right? Like you'll see him on a calendar. It's like I got depressed when we walked in the house. I was like, damn, all right. Clearly I need to do more workouts. Right. The and then it even pissed me off more. I saw him eating like an Oreo. I was like, just bastard, eat like me and still looks that good. Like this is crazy. Right. And still in that kind of shape. But the the ultimate guide to live the life of your dreams. If you took health, we break health down into sections, right? Get crystal clear. Physical health. What does that look like to you? And then attach meaning to it. Why? Listen, I never cared about my health until someone was like, why do you even matter if you live? And I'm like, well, I want to walk my daughter down the aisle. So I just get married. It's like, now you're talking, man. And if something happens to my mom, I want to be able to take care of her. You're putting meaning behind shit. That matters because we do the shit we care about. Period. So what physical health, mental health, emotional health, that would be some of the areas we'd break health down into. And then we go, all right, cool. So what's your pinnacle? Like what's your mountaintop on these things? Like mental health, what's your mountaintop? What's your like your ultimate destination if you got the big, what your utopia would be in this? What is it? And then same with emotional health and physical health. Put your mountaintops. That cool. Now we know where we want to go. Where are you currently? What does it look like currently? Because with that, then we have a starting line. And we can't connect dots unless we know where we're starting, where we're ending. If not, we're just like fucking doodling around. It's not the connecting shit. So we have to have a start and end. All right. So now that we know where we are and where we want to go, Biggest thing, be realistic with yourself, right? We talked about that earlier. Just be real with yourself. Like, I have people, I'll be like, all right, where are you health wise now? They're like, absolutely horrible, fat tub of shit, right? And I'm like, you weigh like a buck 40. Like, please stop it. Right? Like, there's no, this doesn't make this any better or easier, right? Like, I love you just destroying yourself in front of me and I don't have to do it for you. But let's just be real, right? Yes, I need to work on my stomach. Yes, I need to eat less shit. I ate 2 little nerd clusters before I got on here. Not good for me. Everything in moderation, okay? But then also, like, getting my body in movement would be great, right? Not just sitting at a desk all day. So, we know where we wanna go, be honest about where we are, then have, milestones. We call them achievement stones. Because one of the biggest things that keep people from reaching their goals is they miss progress. Then if they don't see progress, they feel like they're struggling. We depend on progress. If we see progress, we'll keep doing shit like crazy. It's like one of the biggest things why I was saying in the coaching space. If you want to be a successful coach, get someone a quick win. Because as soon as they get that quick win, they're going to be like, this dude's a magic. And then they're going to believe in everything you say and do everything you say because they got that progress. They saw something grow. They saw something. So have achievement stones along the way so you can see and map out progress. And also it shows the path. It makes it more believable, makes it more achievable. Then the next part is what's something you can do right now? What's the first step? And then we're going to take that step. So like if you want to be a millionaire and right now you have $2, next step is 3, man. Let's get one more dollar. How do we get that dollar? All right, let's get that buck. Cool. All right, cool. We're at 3. Let's go. Let's get 5, right? Like, and then we're just going to keep, all right, and taking the stones to get to the destination. So that's our ultimate guide to live life of your dreams. Where do you want to go? Where are you starting from? What are your achievement stones along the way so we can map out the path? And what's one step we can take today? And then every day we're going to take a step because here's the deal. You do one push-up every day. You keep adding them up. Then you're doing 365 push-ups a day. I don't know how many people that do that.
We all have lots of differences, but we are also very much the same. You might have nothing in common with Michael Faber when it comes to your background, but the principles that he discussed hold true for all humans. And that's why I love connecting with people like him and learning from unique humans with unique life experiences. Follow Michael's action steps to map out your dream life. Make sure you remember to use his advice to shift out of a victim mentality, take back control, and use that to take action. That is change made easy. If you're really passionate about making this change stick, then I just have to remind you about my free weekly newsletter. Don't miss out on joining the thousands of change seekers just like you who get a curated list each week of 5 educational, informative, and inspiring pieces of content that will help you on your quest for change. Go to the notes of whatever app you're listening on and click the link that says free newsletter now. And you'll be signed up to get free tips sent straight to your inbox every Friday that will help make your change journey easier. All you have to do is click free newsletter right now. Go to that link, and I'll see you back here every Tuesday and Thursday for new episodes of Change Made Easy.